Are you kidding me? That's what?
Yeah, every so often it happens that Ryan is right.
100% right. Not even a little bit right.
Tucker Pullman, 2 points last game.
No kidding.
My man!
Hey, neither does me running shirtless, but that turned out very well.
Welcome to the PP1 Podcast.
Welcome to our show. Welcome to our show. We are the PP1 Podcast. We're live in Technicolor Dream Coats. Ed and Ryan. And it's we're on the Hockey Podcast Network.
Hey, we made it. Thank you.
Sponsored by DraftKings, promo code THPN. Get in on that. We'll do a DraftKings read later. It's funny that they allow us to be sponsored by DraftKings because you and I both know I do not draft very well when it comes to fantasy sports. So I feel this is like eventually they're going to figure me out, and that's not going to be good. So anyway, that's where I'm coming from on that. You can follow us on a bunch of things. You can follow us on Twitter and our YouTube, the Hockey Podcast Network, the Twitch, our Twitters, Facebook. If you want to comment along, as you saw last week, how come am I like mirrored or something? Feels like I'm looking somewhere different. Anyway, focus on the camera, Ryan. Comment along. We'll have some fun. We'll answer some questions if we can fit you in. We may have a guest. I'm not really sure. It's up to him. It's an open invitation. We're going to try to have Whit next week. It just didn't work this week. So apologies, Whit. And yeah, I think we're going to have a good show. There's hockey going on. Before we get into like all the hockey stuff, you guys, we know there's going to be hockey. I was driving around today, as I do most days.
As one does.
And I thought to myself, I think I have too much money. Do you ever get that feeling? Like you're like,
I've never had that feeling.
No, you've had the feeling like you're just thinking like, I don't think I need all the money I have. And I got that feeling as I drove past the gas station and realized it went up another.
That one.
Yeah, and it went past the gas station, and I went and saw it's another 10 cents, and I thought, you know what? I didn't need that extra 10 cents per liter. I'm doing just fine. So I'm just going to fill up close to $2 a liter. Clearly, I'm being sarcastic. This is getting ridiculous for gas. So, yeah, in case you're...
now it's like $1.80 or something like that, $1.85.
$1.85. That's... Give me a break. Give me a break.
The traffic gets shitty and the gas goes up.
Yeah, it's welcome to the Okanagan summer. So yeah, I just thought, money's for losers. I don't need any of that, so I'm going to spend it on my gas tank, which super sucks. But that's how it goes sometimes. That's how it goes. You know what I mean? You know what I mean. You don't agree, but you know what I mean. How was baseball?
It was good. We missed your bat.
Thank you.
Yeah,
like just like the physical bat, or like my abilities.
We missed your abilities, lefty.
Okay, I appreciate that.
No, it was we played a good team. We had a ton of hits. We just stranded a ton of runners, just like the real life Blue Jays.
Speaking of the Blue Jays, that's actually a really funny reference. So just before we started here, the Jays have been just like absolutely atrocious in the last 3 weeks. I think they've won like 2 games out of their last 13 or something. Like, it's bad. They are just bottom of the barrel. And yet the Jays have like the 3rd best odds to win. I mean, it doesn't say much, to win the division. And then to win the American League outright, I think they have the 4th best odds. How does that make any sense? Are they going like the guy that's in charge, was he on holidays? If like the booking, like, I don't know, Bet365, which is a competitor of this network, but maybe they're just like, you know what? No one's been watching the Jays. We could just throw out these.
We'll just look at all the names on the roster and be like, yeah, I'll take that.
Vladdy and Bo Bichette, yeah, those guys are all stars. They must be killing it. No, they're not. They're not. Things are going bad. Varsho not looking good. I think Jansen is getting an MRI. It's bad news Bears, man. Bad news Bears. So good reference. Good pull. I like that.
Yeah, it's about as weird as a possible Golden Knights Panthers final. Whatever the odds were on that. Like, what did the odds maker push for getting that one up?
at the beginning of the year, there's no way you could have had that figured out. Isn't it interesting though when you look at both teams, and I think if that's what ends up happening, I do think Florida wins because Florida gets in by the skin of their teeth statistically, but they were rolling, right? Like they get in and they basically it's almost like an LA/St. Louis type run. You know what I mean? Like they
Yeah,
are
like
good now.
unheralded. Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, you weren't expecting them to get there, but then the way that the roster is constructed just looks dangerous. And
yeah.
they got goalie Bob there, and that sort of ridiculous defense that's so good at retrieving pucks and getting them up and out. And this team just forechecks like a beast too, which is I don't know how you stop that. Just waves and waves of good skaters.
It's just wild though. Like you've got Ekblad, and you've got Barkov, and you've got Tkachuk, and you've got, I mean, backup Bob or not backup Bob. That'd be Bob Estenza. You've got Officer Bobrovsky back there, and it's like there's been no love to this team, and now they're in the position where they're probably the favorite going in. Once, I mean, Vegas is going to make it. That's inevitable. But you look and you think, okay, well, if we're just looking at goaltending, first and foremost, it would be Bobrovsky. Because as good as Aiden Hill is, he's going to have to be like 3 times better than he's already been. And Florida isn't going to give up. They're going to keep peppering what they've got. They've just been in control, it seems like, every series.
Does he have to be better though? Like I
I
don't
think
know.
so.
I think if you're just playing like ridiculously good team defense, every NHL goaltender can stop what they're going to see.
I just think that Florida just their pressure just is relentless.
Mm-hmm.
And even tonight, watching the Vegas Dallas game, and I at my folks' place, and Dad and I are watching. I said, like, Vegas has that same look too. They just look like they might look like the game is possible for Dallas, but yeah, they're coming in waves. Just the control of play and just how they're convincing when they've got the puck. Like Dallas has to really make the most of what's going on their side of the puck, and Vegas just kind of, as soon as they get the turnover, it just moves the other way. And they get their 3 chances. They might not outshoot them, but all their chances are grade A chances. So I think there's more on the Florida side than there is on the Vegas side. That being said, I do think Vegas can shine in the Stanley Cup, and that place would be bumping.
Oh yeah,
to go back to the final.
I mean, they've already proven that it is that place, right?
Yeah. And maybe that's the X factor. Maybe it's a crowd thing. Maybe they get that extra boost. Jack Eichel gets to see his first Stanley Cup. But I kind of like Roberto to win.
I mean, that's gonna change sort of the blueprint, I guess, again, right? For building a Stanley Cup contender. It was like size, down the middle, big defenseman, puck possession, right? And then now we're kind of moving into that like steady team depth. Right, like
three secondary lines.
Yeah, like I don't need an ace and like a solid second line, and then a checking line, and then like, I mean, you don't need that, right? I think they're happy to have guys that look like possible second liners playing on their third and fourth liner all the way up, and no true first liners. Although, I mean, that's a little bit different now. Vegas and Florida have obvious game breakers.
Yeah,
but the bottom of the roster is constructed so smartly, and just all with guys that can move the puck all the way around. So I don't know. I mean, I don't know if it matters that it's Aiden Hill. I don't think Vegas is constructed to have to worry about what goalie is in net. I think that the goalies are built and taught the system based on the team. I think we talked about this a little bit last week, and I think they're set up to carry whatever goalie is in their system. And Hill, I mean, has looked the part for the most part, but he's also just doing the job he's supposed to do. He's not being asked to do any more than that.
Yeah.
So it should be really interesting. I feel like Vegas matches up favorably against Florida. I think it would be a fun series to watch, though. I mean, it's funny that we're talking about, Florida squeaking in, and then you have a guy like Tkachuk, who people were already calling a possible, Conn Smythe finalist after the first round, right? Like he's been that good in the playoffs. So, yeah, I mean, yeah, between him and Sasha Barkov, I mean, there's some elite level talent there that I'm stoked to see what happens in the final with him. It's gonna be a lot different than that final back in the day with JVB and Mellenby and Rob Niedermeyer
the
and
juggernaut Colorado Avalanche. Yeah. It's interesting. You compare
maybe the
those
return of the
teams.
Rat, right? That'd be kind of fun.
And they had that when they clinched, right? You just see all these Rats, and I'm thinking, oh man, like they're sitting on something pretty awesome there. And you look at the trade from it was last season, right? The Huberdeau Tkachuk trade.
It was the start of this season.
Yeah, and you look back and you think how differently both of those teams have gone.
Yeah, it's just smart, right? Like, not many teams would have the straight up balls to do that, to walk away from a Huberdeau.
Yeah.
And make the trade. Obviously, they capitalized on probably a shitty situation in Calgary's standpoint, right? Having to walk away from both Gaudreau and Tkachuk, and it's been talked about ad nauseum. And that can't be your blueprint. Like, oh, out and acquire a star. Like, no, man, like that doesn't happen. And
it doesn't always happen that way.
Frequently, like both these teams have had the opportunity to do that, which is kind of cool, based on another team's misfortune. Or maybe mishandling of the star player, right? But like, yeah, Tkachuks don't just grow on trees. Eichels just don't grow on trees, right? Like, this stuff sort of happens, and if you're there, you have to be able to pounce on it. And that's for a team that trades as much as they do with Florida. I mean, that's why it's sort of so annoying when you think about what's going on in Vancouver, because even if they wanted to pounce on a spot like this, they just couldn't, right? Like, there's been so much talk about Carolina and what's going to happen with guys like, Sebastian Aho. And even if they wanted to make a push for somebody like that, they can't. They just can't. I mean, you're spending to the outer limits of the cap with bad contracts for a team that can't make the playoffs. I mean, you're not cap flexibility. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, the cap's going up. Between that and Kravtsov, you could be just fine, right?
Oh. I mean, welcome to the Canucks. It's like if it can keep getting worse or it can keep just stubbing your toe, it happens. Speaking of things getting worse, my day has not been good. I did send you a text. I don't know if you looked at the photos yet. So 12:30 a.m. local standard time. Both kids run into our bedroom. I'm in the dead of sleep.
What the hell?
Mom, Dad, there's an earthquake or something hit the house or what? What are you talking about? So out I trot because I'm the man of the house and may be meeting my demise. It's entirely possible. Go out.
My cardiac therapist says it's a blue ticket job, not a pink ticket job.
A pink ticket. So go out, look. Don't see anything out of the ordinary. There's been a bear in the area the last
It's either like a bear or an earthquake. I'm not sure.
Yeah. So there's been a bear in the area the last week or so, kind of around the school and around our neighborhood. So I'm thinking, well, maybe the bear knocked one of our trash cans or recycling or something, like bears do. They're curious like raccoons. So thought maybe it's that. And it's, the way ours are situated, it would fall down kind of like the side of our house with all the rocks. So it would be fairly noisy when it's dead quiet. Didn't see that. Did you leave the garage open? Well, now my next thought is, oh crap, I better have closed it because this is going to suck. Whatever. Yeah, it's closed. Okay, perfect. Next thing was did my tire rack fall on the car? No, I didn't hear any alarm. So we're good. So I'm checking off all the major stuff. Can't see a thing that looks like it's a problem. I look outside, front door. I see looks like a box kind of in behind our tenant's vehicle. I'm like, oh, okay. Whatever. Didn't kind of looked odd. I'm like, yeah, I'm too tired. I don't care. So I get up or go back to bed. Kids are freaked out, think that, it's the worst. They're not safe. I'm like, the top floor is about as safe as you're going to get in our house. It's the furthest away from danger aside from an attic fire. So anyway, which would be awful. So,
which you haven't told them about.
I haven't told them that could happen. So anyway, wife getting ready for by the way, yeah, there's also other dangers we've never talked about.
Yeah, you think you're safe.
Yeah, until the attic burns down. So 6:45, wife's heads out the door. Door opens back up. Ryan, what? I'm still pretty much sleeping because I don't get up for another half hour. This is what was outside. This fell off our house. And it's this big butcher block piece of wood that's kind of like, I want to call it like a sconce, but it's not a sconce. Like basically a decorative piece of wood in the arch of the front of our house. So this thing fell about 15, 18 feet off our house onto the roof by my daughter's window. Chunk, chunk, chunk. Falls
trying
off.
to like look at your picture here and see where it fell from, but
So if you look at the second picture on the right, like the house, if you scroll up to the right, there's like a white spot there. There's like 5 nails holding that in place. This is like a piece of butcher block wood, basically. And thankfully, no one got hurt. Nobody got hit. No vehicles got hit. But like this thing could have easily just, I mean, if it would have hit someone, the bright of day, probably would have killed them. So needless to say, that was the start of my day. Then,
I see.
Yeah,
it's like a faux truss.
Kind of.
It's not even like a beam or an archway.
No,
it's
it doesn't.
It's like
anything.
put there to look like it's.
Yeah.
You have one running through the entirety of the house.
Exactly.
Liars.
we know. How dare you? How dare you fool us?
How dare you with your butcher block?
Yeah. So anyway, that thing, it's not light. It could have been damaged. So that was the start of the day. Then I got called to bring our youngest her gym shorts because it's runoffs today to make it to districts. Apparently, the shorts she was wearing were not sufficient enough. So I left work, of course, go pick those up. Didn't make a difference, apparently. And just look at the secretary. She just shakes her head. I shake my head. We both have a good laugh. So I get home, and we have ball
You know what
pitchers.
it's like to go for a race and not have your fast shorts?
That's true. I do know that. So that's fair. You know what? I take that back. You're right.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, hon. So get home. We've got baseball pitchers for Addison's ball team today. I'm a coach, so I got to be there. That's why I wasn't at ball today, because of ball pictures. It sucks. Baseball. I should probably get that out there because we aren't. Anyway, yeah. So before I get home, open the garage, and we open the door. We're just about to, get our stuff ready, go out, and the door handle on our garage door from the garage to our mudroom falls right off. Just that's it. Cool. So this is all today. And so I looked and I tried figuring it out. I had like 2 minutes. I'm like, I'll just figure it out when I get home. So I tried putting it back together when I got home. Looks like the cylinder's broken on the inside. So I need a whole new door handle.
Go see my dad.
Awesome. Huh?
Go see my dad.
Well, I might.
Yeah.
These are all, I'm still like processing all these things. Oh, and then the garage door wouldn't close for whatever reason.
Oh my God.
And then final thing of the day was youngest she's had a stud earring and it's been out for a few days. So finally she gets this other one, starts putting it back in over the sink. You know where this is going. And it falls down the sink. Now it's still possible that I can get it. I went to get some Q-tips with some tape and I was going to try to pry it out. In the meantime, Addison, our oldest, she has pepper in her eye. So she goes into the washroom, turns the sink on. Other child sitting there. I'm like, did you not stop her? Well, no, I didn't know. Turns on the sink. The stud earring is now in the drain. Never to be got.
No, you can still get it.
I don't want to be taking apart pipes to get it.
I literally just had to do it. There's the catch, man. Like it goes like this, and you just remove the two like screws, but you just pop it down, and then it'll be sitting in there.
No, it's a stud earring. We've got more. Life will go on.
I forgot you're just good with throwing money away.
Yeah, exactly. See, I told you. I just wow. That was a good pull just now. That was a good pull. That was well played. I like that. I'm glad this is where we're going.
Money bags, Ryan.
Miss Scrooge McDuck. Yeah. A couple of things before we get into a little bit more hockey. Michael Block. I don't know if you've watched any golf in the last 5 days. Not a pro, but like a club pro. Made the cut at the PGA Championship last weekend. Finished 15th. Jarred the 7th hole. Rory McIlroy gives him a hug. He's like an everyman, club pro, basically like Gallagher's or something.
Sure.
Anyway, so he cemented himself. He gets to go back to the PGA Championship.
When you're at the golf course and you meet the club pro, doesn't seem like the everyman.
Well, I mean,
he seems like that. I'm like significantly cooler than you, guy.
He is, yeah. but he's like, when you're thinking about professional athletes,
It's a super rad story. I'm just trying to play.
yeah, no, I also agree with you. He's doing better than I am. What do you do? Oh, I just golf for a living.
Yeah, my job is golf.
I teach people how to swing a club. Good thing I don't do that because I'd be losing money because of the way I hold a golf club. So anyway, this guy, he made just under 300 grand. He's been invited to a few events. He's kind of become like the Cinderella story kind of thing. Super cool guy. And he gets to go back to the PGA Championship next year because he finished in the top 15. So he's got an automatic exemption for another major next year, which is super cool.
Imagine.
Like, it's just wild. Michael Jordan texted him the other day. Like, bonkers.
Crazy.
So he's going to miss the cut this week. He got invited to the Charles Schwab tournament, and he's like +9. So he has a chance to... He won't make the cut.
Corey Schwab.
Yeah, the Corey Schwab Classic. That should be a golf tournament, maybe. Maybe it is. Maybe we don't know about that. Anyway, cool story.
Speaking of tournament, we got a tournament coming up here pretty quick here.
2 weeks. 2 weeks. Very excited. I have work off. I will be there every single game.
Are you? So you're playing for? Are you playing
Hawks.
For the? No.
What are we talking about?
I'm talking about. I'm talking about the.
Oh, home base.
Home base tournament. Yeah.
So far, I am not playing. We've been trying to work something out with Okanagan Lifestyle. That has not come to fruition quite yet. We're trying to move some things around. So maybe have you already been given a spot? Are you playing?
I'm on the squad. Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Like an honorary squad. I had an in though.
So, you do. You have a bit. You have a bit bigger in than I do. So that's fine. Well, I'm not yet, and I don't have 2K to put in a team. So. Actually, maybe I do. Apparently, I'm throwing money away, so maybe I do have $2,000.
Yeah. So for anybody who doesn't know, it was some Rockets alumni, Josh Georges, Blake Como.
Yep.
Put this tournament every year, big fundraiser. Because of the teams that are in there, lots of current and former NHL stars are out there. So we got to meet a lot of cool players last year and sort of shoot the shit and play along and have some fun games against some people, some athletes from other sports that you wouldn't normally play against. It's just a great time. There's the cause is always great and the people are better. It's actually like a really great time. So I was stoked to be out there this year. So maybe we can get together with the OKGM team because also great. We got Jacqueline and Ryan Robertson and our boy Matt Ferguson who works out there now. So I think the plan is for us to just try to get in there and see if we can help each other out a little bit and promote the tournament and try to get as much extra recognition for them as we can because it's for a good cause.
Absolutely. And it's a lot. I mean, there's the sports side. It's a lot of fun, but just seeing kind of like the community outreach and everything that, Save on Foods is out there. Like there's a lot of, a lot of big deal, not a lot of big deal businesses, but the fundraising, there's the kind of the charity classic on the Friday night, which I won't be able to make, but that's always cool. They do like an autograph session by donation, which is really cool. So you get to like the Luke Shans, Tyler Myers,
everything's going to the KGH Foundation, which is like the local hospital, obviously.
Yeah. So, very cool. Very cool. Great. It's a neat initiative. Our friends at Players Choice are one of the official sponsors of that as well. So they'll have a team. It's going to be a lot of fun. We'll do our best to be part of it. I know you're going to be there anyway doing the sports thing, so hopefully I can get involved in that as well. Good time. Speaking of local events, the Memorial Cup is in Kamloops starting tomorrow. Very awesome stuff. Apparently Kelowna wasn't good enough to host it. That's fine.
What a joke.
That's fine. It's not like we have an infinitely better city to host such tournament. Apparently Prospera Place is not up to snuff. I've
said this before. I mean, we've been to Kamloops. We went to Kamloops for my birthday, the group, right? All the boys and hit all the brews. Great time, fun city to hang out with. So I think they're going to go there and they're going to have a great time in Kamloops. And it's been a good host in the past. But I just have a hard time getting over the fact that flying over Kamloops looked like barren, scorched, post-apocalyptic Earth. It's different out there than the rest of the Okanagan for sure.
It is desert weather. Like we've got the semi-arid desert out here, which is great. We get a little bit of moisture. Not so much out there. It's going to be a good time. I mean, hockey's hockey. We like our hockey out here. They I mean, they've won some Memorial Cups, so they can back up what they've brought. It's gonna be a good tournament. I do think Seattle's gonna run away with that. That team is absolutely stacked.
Oh yeah.
Like I don't think it's
Got
going to be
seven drafted players on it, 7 or 8 drafted players on it.
Yeah, they're
And
messy.
you look at the rest of them have like 4 or 5, which is still very
Still
good.
silly. Yeah.
Right. I mean that Kamloops squad is going to be led by Stan Coven. We've talked about them on the show many times before.
Is Connor Zary still there?
That's going to be a good squad.
I don't think Connor Zary's there anymore. But he was good. He was good when he was there. Connor Zary, remember him?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't think he's there anymore.
No.
Oh, maybe he is. I can't remember. It's been so long since I've seen WHL hockey.
You're hilarious.
Yeah, I know.
He's there.
Jerome McGinley still playing?
Jerome's still there.
Jerome's still there?
Yeah.
Niedermeyer, Mark Recchi, they're still all over there. That's good. Yeah. So it'd be nice.
I just saw a thing with Jerome McGinley just recently.
Yeah, he's with the Flames now.
He's signing a stick for a kid or something like that. He looks different. Like he's like leaned out and trimmed down. He kind of went like the Trevor Linden route. Like he just sort of
rides a bike all the time.
Yeah, he like lost all this weight. Like he just went like full lean trim instead of like he was just this power forward guy. He was like a thick dude, right?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, he's just all these guys just keep themselves in phenomenal shape. It seems
good for them. You know what? They've had a struggle.
Yeah,
you know
it's been hard.
Life's been pretty tough for those guys.
Yeah, there was that run to the Cup final where he had to like fight all the guys that were shadowing him.
Or like the Olympic gold medals, and that's tough, man.
Yeah.
I mean, he had to.
Yeah. Well, he had to play on that line with Crosby. That must have been.
I was gonna say, you know how hard it is to feed in the corner in overtime. Like that's a lot of pressure to make that pass. Yeah, Jerome's had a tough go, but I'm glad he's getting through it all. Man, wouldn't that be nice? Wouldn't that be nice? Yeah, so Craig Conroy, Jerome McGinley, they're up top in Calgary now. Well, Conroy is anyway. They're going to be getting a new coach. Looks like Brad Treliving is a front runner for the Leafs job because apparently Kyle Dubas is incapable of running that team, which is not necessarily his fault. It's more of the fact that they put all their eggs in one basket for multiple years and it's not panning out. There's a lot of changes going on in Canada for hockey.
I was like really hoping that they were just gonna hire Jim Benning.
There's that part of you just thinks that too, right?
Like I like half thought like, okay, like are they gonna give Dave Nonis another look? And like no, there's all these rumors. I think I saw it like pop up on my like Twitter feed that like the Bob father was like, it's all but locked up that it's going to be Benning, and it probably was like a fake account, right? You know, you get those alerts.
Yeah. You get got. Right? Yeah.
And I was like, yes, this is the best news ever. And then I'm thinking to myself, like, as much as I dislike the Leafs, I don't know if I'd want them to go through that. And how on earth is Jim Benning going to get another job? Like his resume is literally all over the Vancouver Canucks right now, and why they can't do shit for shit.
Yeah.
Like
that's not true. The Luongo recapture is gone. It's gone now.
I mean, I specifically the Luongo recapture was not his fault.
I know, but it's gone. We should remember that.
And he did.
Lyndon Vay was a good pickup.
He did do that thing that one time.
We're not going to get into that. And it wasn't even him doing the thing.
Remember what that was? Yeah.
Louis Eriksson.
I still think they should hire Jim Benning.
They might. Until they say the job's filled. Until they say position filled.
Position filled. That's right.
Man, there's that little glimmer of hope sometimes when I see other teams suffer and think like, well, they're going to have to figure things out. So things aren't as bad for the Canucks. And they still are pretty bad.
It's not impossible. It's impossible.
Which is almost the same thing. If you're listening on the podcast right now, if you're listening on the podcast, you're watching right now, but when you're listening, we're going to do a DraftKings ad read because we're sponsored by DraftKings. First of all, before we get into it, promo code THPN, get on that sportsbook app. Anyway, back to the show because now we're on the real show. Speaking of the Canucks and drafting, there have been rumors that Chicago wants to move up in the draft, but can't do it with pretty much anybody except for the Vancouver Canucks, which is Alanis Morissette ironic in so many kinds of ways? Because of course it's the Canucks. Now, that means the Canucks would likely get, I think, the 19th pick.
Mm-hmm.
I think they might even get, I don't know, was it like another first rounder and a second rounder? And then a sweetener would be that they would take on one of Vancouver's not great contracts. Not necessarily the worst one, but one of the contracts in question.
Does the pick have that much value? Like, I would be shocked if you got the 19th, the second, and they took, let's just say,
Like Connor Garland,
yeah, okay, Connor Garland.
Kyle Myers.
Yeah, sure. One of the bad contracts that could possibly be moved. That seems like a lot. Like, is the 11th overall? I mean, I guess you have to know who's available at 11 first. Can't make that deal prior to.
Yeah.
Because what if somebody ridiculous falls?
Yeah. Now all of a sudden the whole board changes.
Like, what if Benson's there? Or like, like, I'm sure Mitchkov would never pass the Caps. But like, what if Mitchkov's there? Like, what? Yeah. But what if, right? Like, what if? Again, I don't think a Will Smith is going to be there, but like, what if like a Leonard's there or something? Like, you have
Where do
to
they have
consider
Carlson
taking a guy
going?
like that, right?
Where's Carlson supposed to go?
Oh, I think Leo Carlson goes. I mean, there's an outside and way outside shot that he goes to, but I can't see him surpassing Fantilli. But I mean, Carlson is a lock for top 4.
So then maybe their goal is to get that other pick and then parlay that into getting him at like 2 or 3.
How do you get? I mean, how do you get a Leo Carlson at 2 or 3 with the 11th overall pick?
Well, you're gonna have to package it with something. They're gonna have to break down a few more pieces to get it. Maybe they're just a rebuild.
I don't know if there's anything there to package though, right? Like I think that's part of the problem why they're having such a hard time getting back into the first rounds, because there is nothing there. Like the level of NHL players that are actually sitting on that roster is so nil.
Yeah.
So it has to be on the form of, and they're nowhere near cap floor yet, I don't think. It has to be something in the form of taking on a shitty contract. I just don't know if it's like a second seems a lot, right? Like if you're saying it out loud, does getting a second, a first, and giving up a bad contract? I don't even want to say like Carlin's a bad contract. He's not.
No, it's a contract that
it's one that we currently can't handle, and we can. What's it, 4.8 or something like that?
Pretty close, yeah.
4.8 plus Kravtsov's 8? Rookie minimum. We're looking at close to $6 million worth of.
But they have to qualify him for that $800K to be.
Only to keep his rights. He's already gone, right? He's already signed in Russia.
Yeah.
Like they have to qualify him in so that if he ever wants to come back, then I believe it's like, okay, we qualified him, we get first right of refusal kind of thing.
I don't like it. I don't think they should even qualify him.
Well, I mean,
go to the way of Trampkin. Like, you know what? He's gone.
Whatever. Oh, yeah, sure. Like, there's a chance that he comes back and is a good player. I mean, you don't get drafted that high because you're dog shit. But the problem is that they don't have anybody to trade to get back in. Giving up a first and getting a first in return, which is, collectively 7 picks down the board.
That's where that second pick comes in, and a contract.
Plus getting an additional second round draft pick.
Yeah.
Plus giving up a roster problem. Like, to me, Chicago's got Vancouver right where they want them. Like, look, if you're going to get rid of this contract, we're swapping first and we'll take the back contract, and that's it. I can't for the life of me seeing a second come back. I would be shocked. First off, I'd be shocked if the trade actually happened. Second, I would be shocked if Vancouver was somehow able to leverage another second round draft pick out of them, in addition to gathering the 19th overall to move there first.
So you know who's available at 19?
I mean, your boy, right? Cristal, right? I mean, he could be there. I mean, that's not a bad pick, but that's the kind of draft that this is, right? I mean, you can still get a decent player at 19, but there's all these
value.
There's all these wingers, and you know that it's going to be center heavy, and you know that, Shimashev and Willander and Reinbacher and, Sandin Palika, they're all going to go. They're all going to go before 19. I would be shocked if Shimashev and guys like that didn't go before them. I can't remember the other guy, the other Russian guy that's there, who's like super dope too. Remind me of like, Adam Bach this year or something like that. Like
Oh wow.
people are making comparisons to Hughes with the level of edge work and skill that he has, but I mean, who knows? But there's going to be some decent defensemen to be had, and I don't think that they need to go defenseman. I think if you're going to pick at 19, then
Then it's BPA.
you're probably going BPA, which is probably going to be winger. And even if you're going at 11, like there's going to be some really good players available at 11, and there's a very, very, very good chance that the player that's going to be available to you is the BPA is going to be a winger, and there's going to be a center and a defenseman that aren't as highly ranked available. And I just don't want them to take the center or the defenseman if there's a sick winger there. I mean, go back to we were talking about a few weeks ago, Yulevi Tkachuk, right? I mean, you're reading the tea leaves there. I mean, all this stuff goes on. Maybe we don't get a Pedersen in the next year and that type of thing. But still, right? I mean, they've already kind of shown.
You can't go backwards almost.
They've already kind of shown, and I know Faber talked a lot about this, that they went, they went Lekaramaki as a winger because he was their guy. And I want them to continue to do that. I need it to be best player available because I've said this a million times. I don't care what goes on with your needs. If the guy you're selecting at 11 or 19 is a guy you're taking, there's almost no way that he's going to be an impact player coming into your lineup right away. Like very, very unlikely. And if you're going to do that, like you take the best player available and you manage your assets, right? Like,
so hear me out. Speaking of managing your assets, friend of the show, Artur Silovs. And by friend of the show, I mean he's a Vancouver Canuck, so he's a friend of ours. A friend in need is a friend indeed.
Mm-hmm. Some sort of 6 degrees of separation.
Yeah, we're gonna have to do some heavy work, but I'm sure it's there. He's talked to Chris Faber once, so that's it.
he's okay in my books then.
Yeah. So it's all fine. So he's absolutely tearing it up for Latvia right now. They beat Sweden. They beat was it Finland? I think. Like he's having, I can't remember.
Czechia, like
I can't remember.
He's on a bit of a heater right now. Yeah.
So you're looking at now one of the better goaltenders that isn't a starter or a backup yet in the NHL. He's going to come off of this tournament, and this isn't the world's elite. Let's just be fair for a second. These are this. I mean, they're NHLers, but it's not the creme de la creme. We're not dealing with who's in the Stanley Cup playoffs right now. Maybe a few people.
Case in point, Ethan Bear and Tyler Myers are a large part of the anchoring this Team Canada squad.
Some might say stars.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of AHL players playing out there. There's a lot of, Finnish elite guys, Swedish league guys, Russian league guys. Like, it's not like an entire squad of frontline NHLers.
However, he is having himself a tournament. Yep. And just like so many other tournaments, when there is focus on these and a position of goaltender, especially what we chatted about last week, as a position of need for goaltending, does Silovs become now a potential, maybe a trade chip? Not necessarily at the draft, but does now his value get upped, and now he can be involved in the talks and kind of get the Canucks, because they are at a position of strength right now. Like, they've been doing well drafting goaltenders. They've been developing them really well. Now you've got an opportunity that maybe it's the guy that isn't going to be like Spencer Martin, basically, and maybe not. Maybe it goes the other way, and maybe Silovs steals a job. Who knows? As the backup job. But realistically, right now, it's Spencer Martin. So now you've got a guy that, yeah, he'd be leading your AHL club, but he doesn't necessarily have to be. You can get another AHL goaltender. If you can move a guy and now he becomes part of a tandem somewhere else in the NHL, now all of a sudden you do have a little bit more value up there. What do you think of that?
Yeah, I don't think there.
Or is this premature?
No, I think, well, there's something there, obviously, right? I mean, I think he's worked his way into the conversation of a one-day NHL starter. Like, I think the team has seen enough in him to invest time, money, and energy into developing him to one day play NHL games for them. Do they think that he is an elite starter at some point down the road? Like, is he Thatcher Demko quality? Like, I think there's a chance that he could get there, but like, I don't think they're like banking on, what is he, a 6th round draft pick turning into that. I think you take your lottery tickets and some of them pop and some of them don't. And this is looking like one that's going to pop. So how big can it get? Right. So I think the hype is there, right? Hype chain's rolling. I don't think they're out there shopping.
No, I'm not saying they're
Archer
shopping, but I'm saying,
Silos.
do you cash out that ticket early?
Well, I don't know. I think this is kind of where I'm going with it. I don't think they're out there shopping him saying, hey, Seelovs is out here slaying in the world championships. And he, was also the guy that didn't start over Spencer Martin, but he was the team's MVP. He's played some NHL games. He's tall. He's athletic. He's been taught by a world-class goaltending coach. I don't think they're doing that. I think he's there, and I think other teams have seen it. But that being said, if a trade were to come down the pipes and somebody said it's Seelovs added to that deal or it's a no deal, I don't think they would be averse to moving him at all.
Okay.
I know that they've spent time, money, and energy in it again, but like, he's not even the best goalie in the NHL, right? Or the AHL, right? I mean, we still have Wolf is there. Like, Askarov's very good. There's a lot of quality NHL or NHL level goaltenders playing in the AHL. And I think, like, you look at a team like the Rangers and how they have done developing their goaltenders. I think that's that's the level that they're trying to get to, right? Like, you bring this guy in, you season him, and Vancouver's always been really good about that, right? Like, after Schneider left, Schneider was built up and then moved on. And then Eddie Lack comes in, and then Eddie Lack spends time under Luongo. And then at some point looks like he's an NHL level starter before he moves on. And then, moving off of him, and then you get Demko picking up games under Markstrom, who spent his time under the wings, right? That's like the one constant about the Vancouver Canucks that they've done a really good job with, is sort of developing their goaltenders over time and seeing what they pan out and turn into. And some of these guys have been guys that pop and really go off, but generally speaking, it's been all those guys with pretty serious pedigrees, right? Like, Markstrom had a really big pedigree. Schneider had a really big pedigree. Demko, pedigree, right? Like, it would be more surprising if Seelovs met those standards that the other guys have. But that being said, it's very clear that he's got the ability to do so. I don't think there's any list where they're saying Seelovs is off the market. You can't have him.
I just think it's pretty timely that all of a sudden he goes on this run. And
hey, you need all the trade chips you can get.
I was going to say, they're in a position of need right now with where the cap's going to be and with where a few other teams are. Like I said, I think looking into next season, there's going to be that look of, do we start running a bit more of a cheaper tandem, across the league? I think there's going to be a few teams that adopt that. And how much cheaper can you get than an AHL goaltender?
You can get cheaper by going, Spencer Martin and Thatcher Demko. Doesn't he make less money than Seelovs?
Martin?
Guess we'd have to check.
That's homework, man. But I'm willing to look. Yeah, it's interesting. I looking at what he's been able to accomplish in the last, week or so, it aids the Canucks into whatever the next phase is of their season before the draft and before free agency. So it just gives them, you're right, it gives them another trading chip. It gives them another, or not necessarily a trading chip, but another asset that they can flaunt if need be.
Yeah, you're completely right. I mean, you have, Connor Lockhart is still out there playing hockey right now. He's going to go play in the Mem Cup, which is great. Had a pretty solid season this year. He's been a guy that was sort of a junior star.
786.
He's still playing. Seelovs is still playing hockey right now. Like, this only helps all these guys, right? And anytime that you can have some level of trade chip, then you kind of have to be able to run with it. Like, if you're looking at Vancouver's depth chart right now, it's like it's Thatcher Demko, and then it's a bunch of I don't knows, right? It's like Spencer Martin, Seelovs, Colin Delia. We don't even know if he's going to be a Canucks next year. They went out and gone and signed themselves Nikita Tolopilo. Like, by all accounts, huge guy. He's obviously a dude that Clark wanted.
He's
he
the
could come in
Steve Shields
and
of-
develop, right? He could be a guy. He could be the next Eddie Lack, really, right? I mean, similar pedigree to come over like that. I mean, unsigned, they have, Ty Young, which is, I believe, plays for Prince George. So, one time when we get Rip on here, maybe he'll know a little bit about him. But that's a guy, like another big athletic goaltender that once Clark gets a hold of him, we'll see what he can do, right? And then under him, there's like a Finnish league goaltender that was like kind of an up and coming prospect playing in Aku Koskenvo, but I think he's playing in, the NCAA right now. And then Matt Thiessen. Like there's a bunch of unsigned guys here as well, like that are unrestricted or unavailable.
Yeah.
That we'll see where some of these guys pan out. You just never know, right? I don't think anybody thought that Seelovs was going to be what he is to this point. What if that's Ty Young next, or what if that's Tulapilo, right? There's a lot of guys on there, and I think Vancouver's done a really good job at identifying goaltenders. Maybe just not the one that needed to be the backup for Thatcher Demko the last couple seasons.
I'm okay with that. I mean, it's going to be a position where they're going to, knowing the Canucks, they're going to rifle through a few of those guys next season, just based on Demko's injury and history, unless he just has that, that marquee year where he goes off and stays healthy. And then, I mean, if he's healthy, he's probably a Vezina candidate, realistically.
I think if he's healthy, he's a top 10 goaler in this league. And I don't know what else you could be asking for.
That's true. That's true. We don't know if we've won Best of Kelowna yet, but I'm waiting patiently. I haven't got an email either way, but we'll know soon enough. I'm really hoping to flaunt that off. We've got, I think we've got a big week coming up. Like I said, we're hoping to have our boy Whit on the show to talk about his story. I am working on a super cool guest. He should be back in, I think, Winnipeg today or tomorrow. And big hockey fan, and he's a drummer for a fairly well-known band in the world. So we're going to talk some hockey with him. We're not going to. I don't know how busy we're going to be this summer because we've got a lot going on. So we might have to do like every 2 weeks or something like that. Because I know June's going to be silly, but I want to get a couple of these episodes. Obviously, leading up to the draft is going to be huge. But we might lay low a little bit in the summertime unless we get some cool guests. So just prepping everybody because we're going to be real with you. We've joined a new network. We want to make sure that our presence is felt. Thank you to everybody for the first big week. Holy smokes. Ted, it was a good idea to move over here. Not that things weren't going well over there, but you've literally heard it loud and clear on Hockey Podcast Network, the Hockey Podcast Network. Can't forget the T. It's part of the logo. Things have been pretty good. We've had a pretty good little week. Maybe it's because of Chris Faber. I like to think it's because of us. But, why can't both things be right? You know what I mean?
Two things can be true.
Two things can be true. That's pretty much, all I've got. There's going to be a Stanley Cup Final happening anytime. It sounds like the Americans aren't, or Alan Walsh isn't too happy that there's going to be no ABC or ESPN games for the Stanley Cup Final. Smooth move, NHL. Good job. TNT is obviously where the money is. So, get Biz Nasty and Wayne Gretzky on there. It sounds like that's where everybody wants to be watching their hockey. Canada, we're just spoiled. So we're going to get whatever they give us. And it'd be nice to see like John and John. Hey, wouldn't that be a great Stanley Cup Final? Just talk about ketchup for 7 games. It's like, why do they keep talking about ketchup? Like it's an inside joke. It's in a Johnny Rockets. Why do they keep talking about Johnny Rockets? It just doesn't make sense to me. Doesn't make sense. Yeah. So there's a Stanley Cup Final to look forward to. And then, I can't believe it. We're getting close to the draft. We're getting close to free agency. Like all these things are starting to happen. We've got our baseball about to happen. You're clearly back. How are things feeling? How's the chesticle feeling?
It's high and tight.
Yeah.
Still getting used to it. Yeah.
Are you able to like hit dingers?
More.
Are you able to hit some?
I got one yesterday.
Oh, for real?
Yeah.
That's good.
So we'll see. It felt good to just get one. So the week before that, I couldn't even hit it out of the outfield because it was just like painful. Like literally every week is getting better. So
that's kind of how your season ended last year.
Not hitting a dinger.
Not hitting out of the out or out of the infield.
Yeah.
It was very lackluster.
It was it was a rough finish.
I don't want to be the guy that says it,
No, it's
but
true though.
maybe we win the championship last year
If I just get a
fully
hit.
healthy.
Yeah. Well, no, I
Maybe
just get a hit.
the old Dan Hamhuis situation. Don't throw that hip check in the first game.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
The two torn hammies. That was productivity was down.
Oh, speaking of, and we'll finish on this because we're old men. I don't know. I know you don't normally get into the group chat these days, but that's okay. So yesterday, finished the game, our ball team, my daughter's ball team, and the umpire basically calls it at an hour 20. He's like, nope, hour 20, it's hour 30 in playoff games. He's a bit of a stickler. So he basically leaves. He's a quirky dude. Strike zone is all over the place. I mean, probably one of the most erratic strike zones ever. Both teams are like, I don't know what to swing at because he's calling a strike and it's 3 feet outside the plate. So a little bit tough. We have some tough drives home when that guy umps. Anyway, so we decide, team from Enderby or Kelowna, let's do base races. Base races. Kids run around the bases, have a good time. We haven't done one in a while. Anyway, so I do like the, on your marks, get set, go. So I do a little trot across the third baseline after I started off. Just a little trot. Nothing fancy, just a typical 6 steps. And I strained my quad. I'm like dead serious. The one dad saw, he goes, something happened. I'm like, yeah, that's rough. I'm like, yeah. So I'm just trying to massage it out. I'm thinking like, it sucks to be old. So anyway, drop that in the group chat. And, Chris, obviously, he's been mega injured. And so Steve says, he goes, man, he's like, it's sure nice being in this chat and feeling like or seeing my body age gracefully, listening to you three old farts. And I thought that was, I thought it was pretty funny because, I mean, you've been obviously injured, Chris and myself. And so Chris kind of gets in. He's like, well, we know that you injured your back and this and that. And Steve goes, have you done anything in a year? So Chris posts the photo of them winning the lacrosse championship last year, right? Him and his 2 kids. He's got the trophy. And I chime in right after. I said, he was in the box most of the game, Steve. Chris goes, that is true. So we try to pull a flex on each other, but yeah, we're all falling apart. So thankfully, you're the one that's getting better now. Maybe it's just major surgery that gets everybody better.
That's it. We just need the surgery so we can get better.
For everything, your knees and everything. That seems to be like your fountain of youth. Just like get major surgery and you come back like 10 times as strong.
Get major surgery and then reset, get better.
Yeah, I'm gonna go to your physio group. I think that's where it's at. That's it. That's it. That's all for us on the PP1 podcast. You guys can obviously follow us on the Hockey Podcast Network, on our Twitters, on our Instagrams. Ted's super, super busy on the Instagram, so you can always chat with him there. That was a poke. We got our YouTube. Check it out. Subscribe to it. Facebook, Twitter, all those sorts of things. And yeah, if you want to drop us a line, if there's people that that you'd like to hear us talk to that we can get, that would be great. Help us out.
Yeah.
If not, subscribe to our show. Subscribe to the podcast. That's where it all started. It's also in the name of our show, so not just a live stream, because otherwise it'd be PP1 live stream, and that sounds super weird. Actually, sounds really disgusting. So maybe just stick to the podcast, but make sure you watch us. As I said, we are on the Hockey Podcast Network. We are sponsored by DraftKings. Promo code THPN. DraftKings Sportsbook app. Promo code THPN. Get in on that. Ted, this has been good, man. Short but sweet. We get it done Thursday night. Watch some hockey. There's Game 5 Saturday night. Vegas and Dallas in Vegas. I can't wait. It's gonna be good stuff. Any final words, man?
No, man. Good, fun show.
Good enough for me.
Yeah,
good enough for me. On behalf of Ted, who is good enough for him, I'm Ryan, good enough for myself. Peace out.